Hello and welcome to TechPrane channel. In this video, we'll be looking at the next stages of the internship program that we advertised a few weeks ago. We had some really excellent submissions and an overwhelming response to that interview. So we're now heading into the next phase of the interview. So it's a multi-phase interview, so there'll be several stages that you have to go through. So let's start exploring the next steps. So look at how you can scale your application. At present, the application has been built with the assumption that it's only used by a single user. So what kind of considerations do I need to take into account if the application is going to handle maybe 100,000 users at peak time? So we need to drastically change the design of what we've got. So this is what we discussed in the scaling your application section. After that, we'll be looking at how to move to a different storage layer or different persistence engine. So a lot of you used SQL to store the data, SQL-based databases, relational databases to be precise. So I'd like to move away from relational databases to document databases. So we'll be looking to use MongoDB. Why MongoDB? MongoDB is the best NoSQL or document database on the planet, and TechPrane uses that extensively. So we're expecting you to build up skills in that area. So this is what we'll be discussing in the section that talks about changing the persistence layer to use MongoDB. We'll then look at code distribution. A few of you submitted videos only showing what you'd actually built. That is not ideal. So we've been quite lenient. We shouldn't have considered those videos. So it's important that you follow the instructions whenever you've got a brief that's given to you. So if you submitted a video, that's not the best way to submit code. It might not have been clear what the code format was, but you had the option to ask. And this is quite important when you're working with clients, being able to have that communication back and forth when things or requirements aren't clear. So we want you to distribute the code using industry standard methods. So definitely we expect you to be using something like GitHub to share the code and also to share the videos. You can actually load that kind of stuff into GitHub. So we'll talk about that as well. The other point is hosting the application. So we expect you to host the application. So this is a fairly simple application to host. So it will also showcase your skills, the ability to be able to host the application. So don't just have the code in GitHub. Do try hosting the application. There are lots of free hosting platforms out there that will allow you to host your code and then link to a cloud database. So anyway, let's dive in. So scaling the application. So we're expecting that this application has to handle 100,000 users at peak time. So this is the requirement that we've received from the client. So this data has to be written to a central database, and you'll be using MongoDB in this case. We'll discuss how to use MongoDB in the cloud. So we're expecting you at least, at the very minimum, to connect your application to MongoDB Atlas, where you will get an M0 free database. You don't need to pay for a cloud database in Atlas. That's a fantastic database to be able to do this sort of activity. Other things that you need to factor in include code optimizations. The fact that you're moving to a new storage layer or storage engine means that your code has to be drastically different and in line with best practices whilst working with that new database, which in this case is MongoDB. So these are really the major points when it comes to scaling your application. Your application needs to be able to cope with 100,000 users at peak time. How will you test that? There are a variety of load testing tools available. So I can think of Locust. Locust is a great tool to load, test your application, and you can build out various scenarios for doing that. So that's the piece about scaling your application. So what metrics are we looking for? A discussion about scaling wouldn't be complete unless we start talking about metrics. So we're expecting response times at peak load. So if somebody would like to query the database at peak load, response times less than a second, best case. So nothing more than 1 second. So if I have 100,000 users writing to the database and I try to read from the database, I should get a response back in less than 1 second. So there are extensive tools of how you'll be able to measure that when working against MongoDB. You could do something as simple as write a script that times or measures the operation times that your code is taking. Okay, so that's us talking about scaling the application. So the next part here is about changing the persistence layer. So we're expecting you to migrate from using a relational database to using MongoDB, a no document database. So what are the other expectations here? So currently we're handling GeoJSON. That's the technical term for the data that you've been capturing. Yes, you're capturing latitude and longitude, but that is also referred to as GeoJSON. So how do we store this GeoJSON efficiently in the database so that we can actually query it efficiently? So these are the kinds of questions that you need to provide answers to. And what you're doing that is making sure that you're using the correct data types when you store this data to MongoDB. So data types is one thing, but also indexing. So we have extensive videos on the TechPrane YouTube channel. So view those videos because a lot of the answers to these things or these requirements that we've got here are in the videos that are on the TechPrane channel. So spend time viewing the videos before you get into this assignment. It will pay off. It will answer a lot of questions you might have about how to build this efficiently. So this is what we'll be doing in the persistence layer, making sure that we've got a great schema design. So schema design is quite important when it comes to having a well-performing application that's using MongoDB. So schema design, also think about query performance, think about indexes, think about data types, and also think about the MongoDB queries that you'll be incorporating into your application. There is an additional requirement for the persistence layer. At some point, we should be able to generate a report that tells us about all the various locations that these users have saved the database. Generation of that report should be efficient. That's the most important thing. So the report should be generated efficiently. So what does that mean in terms of the code that I should write or the schema that I should build? So these are some of the things that you need to factor in. So the next point is code distribution. So I'd like you, as much as possible, to share your code using industry standard methods. So you have to use GitHub to do that. So have your code in GitHub and share the link with us. We will not accept any submissions that are sent as zip folders, for instance, or a video link, or a link to a YouTube video. No, everything must be in GitHub, and just share your repository, and then we can pick it up from there. So we're trying to encourage you to adopt best practices when you work collaboratively, and that's quite an important thing. So we spoke about hosting as well. So we're expecting you to host this. Find a free hosting platform where you can actually get your application code hosted, and then you can connect to your MongoDB Atlas database. That's easily done, and you shouldn't have to spend any money doing that for the kind of application that you're building. So remember that MongoDB Atlas M0 is free. That is a cloud database. And then you can go with any free hosting providers out there. So you might be hosting your PHP, or you might decide that it's actually better if you write things in Node.js. But whatever language you use, make sure that the driver, the database driver that you're using, is the official MongoDB database driver for that particular programming language. That's going to make things a lot easier for you. We don't expect you to use object document mappers, so please use official MongoDB drivers when you interact with the database. And there's a reason. There's a reason for that. Most of our projects are executed using the official MongoDB drivers. We don't rely on third-party ODMs for interaction with the data layer. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're expecting. So this recording here is made on the 8th of November. So we have exactly 1 week to do this work. So as I mentioned earlier, look out on the YouTube channel. So this is the video that I guess we've been waiting for, telling us what the next steps are. So we've got a week, and this time around, that's going to be extremely strict. We're a little bit relaxed about the previous deadline. We accepted submissions after the deadline. It won't be the case this time. If you don't have your submission ready by next Friday, 1700 hours Lusaka time, please do not make the submission. Submissions made after 1700 hours Lusaka time will not be accepted. If at all you require any further guidance, or perhaps you've got questions, just leave a comment in the YouTube commenting section. And please remember to like and subscribe to the channel so that you get additional information. So we might drop additional information just to guide people. We might maybe even show some sample code on how to do things. So depending on the questions that we get, we might do that. So you don't want to miss out on that. So make sure that you subscribe to the channel. So like and subscribe. Okay, so happy coding and good luck. Expecting to see your submissions by next Friday. Okay, thank you.